tint. And let's get started. I'm not going to go through the details. I'll show you the details. I'm going to hit General, all right? And then what we're going to do to get started, we don't need this cube, so let's delete that. And I like to hide the camera and the light just so I can focus a bit better. All right, now mesh and cylinder. We will use a cylinder for our tint. And let's edit these vertices, and I'm going to set it at 16 will be sufficient. A radius of 3 is what I find to be perfect, and then a depth of 5. So that will be the base of our tint. That is looking great. Okay, and let's get a view of the top. What I want to do now is make sure you've selected the object, because I am going to be headed over to scale to make this more of the oval shape that would be of a traditional circus tent. So if you noticed on scale, I'm setting that X to a 2 and the Y to a 1.25. And that looks perfect. And I'm headed to edit mode. In edit mode, I'm going to change it to face select right about now. So I'm selecting the top of it and I'm about to duplicate. The reason I want to duplicate this is I'm going to be using this as the top of our circus tent. And this way I know it's exactly the same size. I'm going to set the X and Y to 0 to make sure it's centered. And I'm going to shrink it down a bit to a 0.9. Now I'm going to have it selected and separate by loose parts. This makes sure that we can edit them independently. I'm headed to object mode. I'm going to select just the top. And I am hiding the bottom. And let's head back to edit mode for just the top. I'm going into face and I'm going to extrude the face to have the things that hang down from our top of our tent. I'm going to set 0, 0, and the amount I want it to be extruded on the z-axis is negative 0.7, and that should be perfect for the sides hanging down. I can go ahead and delete this bottom face, so let me select it, mesh, and delete faces. There we are, and that's just the bottom portion of it. Awesome, this is looking really good so far. So I'm going to click on Z to get a perfect view of the top, and I'm going into vertex mode. I'm going to select these two vertices in the center, and let's go ahead and use connect vertex path. And it's similar to drawing a line or to cutting a line, right? We just created a new line there. And that will be used later on with a mirror modifier. All right, let me select the right half of my tint and face, and let's poke. Boop. And there we are. So I think you can already see how the tint is going to be coming out of this, or how the top of it. And so what I'm doing now, let me select this line, and I'm going to subdivide it by 3, because we do want some lines on that left side. We do want it to kind of have this star shape from the center, so that way when we pull up a spire to our tent, it looks correct. So there we are, I've subdivided it. Let's go into vertex mode. In vertex mode, what I need to do is create lines between this center point and the left side here, this line that I have. And that way it creates, again, that star pattern, if you will, so we can have the spire in the center of the tent. So I'm going to select this point, I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to select the center point. I'm going to go to vertex and connect vertex pairs. One more time, I'm going to be selecting the center point. I hold shift, select the second point, vertex, connect, vertex, path. And there we are. Now we have the pattern that we need to create a realistic looking tent spire. Let me zoom out a bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it over a bit. I would like it centered more to the right side. And just to be exact, I'm going to move the X 0.3. Great. And that's looking better already. And we zoom out and time to pull up on our tent. Now, to be exact again, I'm going to move the Z up 1.7 will be the distance that I'm moving directly up. Actually, I'm moving up 2. All right, 1.7 wasn't sufficient, so I moved up 2. Let's go ahead and click on the Z and view it from the top. I'm going to select all the planes, and I'm going to go ahead and do inset faces and move towards the center. And this will create a shelf-like, if you will. I'll show you what I mean, but first the thickness is going to be set to 0.45, and because we want several different layers, if you will, of depth and of distance, creating that look of a tent pole or a tent standing on a tent pole. Now I could hold Alt and click on one. First I'm going to make it more somewhat circular, if you will, a bit more of a realistic shape in my opinion. I'm moving it by 0.5 positive on the X and negative 0.5 on the Y. And now I'm going to go ahead, let's move this by 0.5 on the X and positive 0.5 on the Y. Giving it again a bit more of a realistic shape, or what I think is a more realistic shape. And this we're just going to move over a bit as well. 0.5 sounds good to me. And up some, maybe up on the X 0.2, and that looks good. Now let's do the same with this other side. Negative 0.5, and then again, let's pull it up a bit. And we're going to do again 0.2, just to keep it symmetrical. And that is all looking all right. And now using the line select, I'm going to go ahead and select all the lines of the inner circle. I could use Alt and click on one line and it will select all of them. I thought this was more clear for beginners. I'm holding Shift and selecting each line. And I am going to scale that inwards. And to be specific, I'm going to go in by 0.8. So I'm going to keep it at the 80% mark of the original size. 0.8 is what I put. And I'm going to pull it up some. And again, just to make sure I'm very specific, 0.08 is how much I will pull it up. Kind of pull that in just a smidge. It looks like I pulled it in 0.0541. Roughly anything around that would give a similar appearance. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start making the tails, if you will, of the top of the tent where it hangs down lower. So I'm selecting multiple, I'm holding Shift, I'm in vertex mode, and I'm selecting every other vertex to do this. And that's going to be the last. And let's go ahead and pull them down. I'm going to create a like triangle tail, if you will. Pull this down. And negative 0.25. Let's see. Yes, that looks right. Negative 0.25 is looking great. So I'm going to leave it at that. And so what I'm about to do here is delete the left side. I'm going to go into select and face select mode, and I'm going to do delete and delete faces. And I'm just going to get rid of all of this portion of the left side because we're going to use the mirror property. Delete faces. Great. That is what we need. Now I'm going to switch to object mode, and in object mode I'm going to do add mesh cylinder, and what I'm going to be doing here, let's go ahead and switch that to 12 if you didn't have it that already. I'm going to be making a flagpole. So I'm not going to adjust the size. I just moved it over negative 2.7 just to see it. That doesn't really matter. But the scale is going to be 0.1, 0.1, and 0.5. And actually this is still too large. Let me go ahead and move over so we can see this. Still too large, definitely. And so I'm going to test out 0.03. This is looking a bit better. Yeah, that should do it. So let me go ahead and position this at the top of the tent. You know what? Yeah, that will be a good size. There we are, overhead view. I'm just going to pull up on it a little. We need to obviously see the flagpole. Let's do some minor adjustments here. There we are. Great. So let's add mesh plane for our flag. And let's go ahead and rotate that on the x-axis 90 degrees. And let's get this into position as well. Let's mush it down some, skinny flag again. Let's see, that's 2 point, so I'm going to do 2.3. Nice and thin for a flag. Let me adjust my view to get a better look at it. And then what should we do for the X value? Well, I'm going to do 0.6 for my flag. And now let's go ahead and go into edit mode and mess with the vertex because we're going to join, these far two vertices, merge at center. And there we go. There is our triangle. And let me select the face of it. Great. And face, extrude. Let's make it a bit thicker, give it some depth like a flag or a solid object would have. And let's do 0.08 maybe. That might be too thin. Oh, this is looking all right. Oh, perfect. Yep, totally on. Let's go ahead and add some color. So my favorite color, which will be, we're going to pick out a yellowish, a bluish, a yellowish, nope, just kidding, a brown, right? And it's my favorite color of hex because it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's what creates the brown that I am using for the flagpole. Now I'm going to add another color for the flag, and the flag will be a bluish color, and it will be the same color we're using on the tent. And now for the tent itself, I'm going to color all of it yellow, and then I'm going to color select portions of it blue. The yellow I'm going to choose, I'm going to type in the hex for too, because I like being exact. It's FFB 400. So it's a yellowish, orangish color. And now let's go to edit mode, and I'm going to start selecting the sections of the tent roof that I would like to be blue, because it's going to be every other panel. So let's go ahead and add a new, and let me select the blue color I like. And again, I'm a stickler for exact. It will match the flag, which is 35A 8DB for that section. And let's go ahead and assign it. And then let me select the other sections I would like to have that color. And we can see it now that I'm in material viewport, but it's easier to see the selection, yes, in this mode. There we are, and I'm just going to pick every other. Great, and let's go ahead and assign this blue color. There we are. Looking good. Let's head over to object mode, and let's select all. Object, join, and why we're doing this is we're going to apply a modifier, which is the mirror. So I want to join all of those objects, and I'm going to go ahead and now apply the mirror modifier to all of them. So I mirror everything I have selected there. Click, and bam! Now we have our 2 spire circus tent, and it's looking excellent. And let's hit apply. All right, let's go ahead and start working on this lower portion of our tent. Let's select it and go into edit mode. And we can go ahead and scale the bottom of it down a bit, just to make it look a bit more realistic, like a tent would, with the base kind of ballooning outwards with the stick support. With the top, I mean ballooning outwards. Great. And then we're going to shrink down the top a bit too. Let's hide the canopy. So I did select 0.9 for the bottom surface plane, and now 0.95 for the top. So a bit larger. Again, it balloons a bit outwards as it hangs across the temples. And that's looking great. It also has the added benefit of making sure that that top roof fits securely or entirely covers the base. That is looking good. And let's start creating or assigning it material colors. And it's going to be the same yellow and blue that I have at the top. We'll assign the entire object this yellow color, and then every other panel a blue color. So FFB400 is the hex value for it. It's a lot of yellowish, orangish right now. We'll take care of that. All right, and every other, I'm going to alternate. So wherever on the top it is yellow, I will make it blue. So let's add our blue material, new, blue, and let me just type it in to be exact on the hex value. It's 35A8BD. And let's assign it that first two. And now let's do every other. I'm going to hold Shift to select every other panel and assign. Oops, I just assigned it yellow again. And onto the back. Every other, whoops. There we are. So, because those are two yellow ones touching. And now these last two, again, it's the opposite color of the top. If you would like to do it matching the top, that works as well. I just prefer this way, I guess. There we are. That's looking great. And now I'm going to start working on a door for our area. First, let me go ahead and delete the face on the bottom. It will interfere with the creation or the separation of the panels for a door. And let me hide the top. And let's go ahead and use the loop cut. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm first going to cut through the center of this object and kind of bow it out in the middle. So our tint has a bit of a sag, if you will. Let me move this more towards the top. So the loop cut, I'm moving up 0.35. And now I'm increasing the size, kind of bowing it out. So I moved the loop cut up 0.35 and I bowed it out 1.03 across the board. Okay, now let me make this door. So these first two, loop cut, and then I'm going to delete some of these leftover panels here to make a hole for our opening in our tent. Delete faces. And let's select these top 3 points, and then I'm going to go to merge vertices and center. There we are for the opening of a door. And now let's shift this over. Let me get this plane, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of those for a door as well. Delete faces. Okay. So we already obviously have a hole. Let's go ahead and use these vertices to our advantage. I'm going to use our knife tool to connect the vertice to about the mid-ish point of the door and hit enter. And I'm going to do this again. And this doesn't necessarily have to be exact. It's hanging fabric. It will look fine. We just want to create the illusion of a door within our object. So roughly there-ish, and to the vertice. Click and enter. Great. And now let's kind of start adjusting these. This is just what you like, what is good to your eye. Yours might not be just like mine. That is fine. It is a door. So I'm moving these up and around some. Trying to get the door how I would like it to hang. Yep, that's looking better. I'm going to move this in a bit and to kind of have it flare out towards the bottom. But let's have it start hanging out in the middle. So I have both those points selected and I'm pushing them out negative 0.1 roughly. Let's get a more exact look at this. And again, yours does not have to be perfectly like mine. I'd move mine a bit in a way I didn't want. But I have pushed them out some, and I'm pushing the bottom even out more. So roughly negative 0.4 there on the bottom, pushing it out on the y-axis. And I'm going to curtail this in a bit, and maybe even move these points in. And that looks. I need to let's apply a solidify modifier to it to make all of our fabric a bit thicker, not give it such a paper thin appearance. I find that 0.3, 0.4, 0.4 looks good. And now I'm about to make adjustments to our camera some to make sure the image is good. So let's put this light back on. I'm moving it up and over. Again, this doesn't have to be exact at all. I've sped this up because it, again, doesn't need to be exact. I'm going to rotate it some unsuccessfully at first, not realizing that it's not a sun yet. So I'm going to adjust my light to be a sun, and then let's put it at 10-ish, 15 angle, and now I'm going to move it around more. Again, yours doesn't need to need exact like this one is. And now to control the camera, I'm going to go to View, Side View, View. I'm going to lock camera to View, and that way I can move the camera around with my mouse, moving it over to get a good picture of the actual circus structure, and I'm going to go ahead and render it at this point. Boom. And there we are. A beautiful circus tent. If you're watching this, if you're still watching this, if you kind of watch this, make sure to hit subscribe, make sure to hit like. It gives me warm fuzzies. It gives you warm fuzzies. It probably doesn't. I don't care. Make sure to do so. If you make something really awesome, definitely comment about it below.